Hi, I'm Gene Cavassis. We're going to do Rey's lightsaber or the Skywalker lightsaber, and I'm going to show you how to go from this to this. So stay tuned. Alright, so I went on Google and I downloaded and printed a picture of Rey's lightsaber using the plumbing pipe that I picked up, and I'll put a link below for all the parts on this. Glasses, earphones, very important. Now, after taking a little time, be careful if you're cutting metal on your bandsaw, but you could also use other methods of cutting that, including a jigsaw. So I'm going to line this up and kind of match the holes that are toward the bottom of the hilt. I'm going to pre-drill these. I'm going to level the holes to make sure they're on both sides. And then using a step bit, I'm going to enlarge the holes on both sides of this. Now, coming back and covering the piece I cut off with tape, I'm going to cut it straight and then slice it in the center. Now this opens this up, and with a little sanding I can get everything smoothed down. Now the piece left over, I'm going to cut that straight just using some tin snips to make that decorative piece that's on the front of the lightsaber. I'm going to use the sander to round off the piece and kind of file it down. And then using a piece of the Schedule 40 pipe, I'm going to also mark this and cut that on the bandsaw as well. I'm going to come in also about a 1/2 inch and put a groove in the tube, and then also on the sander, trim it, sand it up nice, and even use that beveled edge to give kind of a finished look. Now I can slide that sleeve on that I cut, and that's going to be the section that holds the circuit board of the hilt. Also, the Schedule 40 can slide in, and you can see that decorative piece I cut. Now, I'm going to use a piece of PVC plastic I had floating around, but you can find just about anything. And what I'm going to do here is mark and cut out the piece that's going to be used on the side of the lightsaber. And remember, I'll put a link down to everything, all the tools and parts in here. I'm now ready to paint. Now I picked out a paint that says it is good on plastic and metal, so this should work for both materials. Take your time to spray this stuff, and I would recommend doing it outside, or at least wear a respirator in a well-vented area. Now I'm going to mark where the power button is going to come in. I'm using a punch to kind of mark my hole, and then go ahead and I'm going to drill that out with a bit, and then I'm using a larger step bit to knock that hole out to handle the on and off switch. Now even after using that, I'm going to have to do a little grinding on this to clear it out and enlarge it enough that it can handle the on and off switch. It actually is more of an oval, and it looks like that's going to work just fine. I'm going to double check the PVC piece, Schedule 40, and I'll mark where it needs to be grooved out or trimmed out to accommodate the on and off switch. Schedule 40 is very easy to trim out, and I'm just going to use the rotary tool again and just kind of groove that out. I'm going to wipe off any of the excess dust, double check my fit. Looks like that'll work fine. I'm going to use a little bit of what's called gaffer's tape, but you could use duct tape, anything you want. And I'm going to use that to create a little bit of a thicker PVC so it's more snug fit into there. I'm going to use some scissors, trim that piece out, and that's ready to go in. And oh, it's good and tight now. That's going to work great. I'm going to peel off that decorative piece for the top, make sure that fits, and I'm going to hold it in place with some pliers, put a punch on that, and pre-drill my hole to fit this on top. After I've drilled that out, I'm going to do the same mark and pre-drill that on the front of the hilt. And using a pop rivet, I'm going to go through both the hilt material and that piece of PVC to help hold it into place. Now my rivet was a little long, so I'm going to have to take that Dremel again and just smooth that back out. Make sure you wear goggles when you're doing any of this, but I'm going to double check my pipe. That is a really good snug fit. Now I'm going to put a couple of set screws in the sides of this, like it shows even in the design, and that will also help to lock in the polycarbonate tube. Now I'm going to use some foam to help make the supports that go underneath this cut piece that I did, as well as create those black stripes that are on the back of the hilt. So I'm going to get a rough idea of the width, mark that, and I'm going to cut that out. Now using also the white pencil, I'm going to mark how wide to make that piece, and then I'll measure off and draw the lines in about a 1/2 inch width that will be those black stripes that go down the back side of the hilt. And you can use scissors. This stuff is very thin and easy to cut. If you've noticed my hand shaking in some of my videos, I apologize. It is called Essential Trimmer, and it's a pain, but I'm going to keep pushing on anyway. I hope it's not too distracting. Now using the spray glue, I'm going to spray the back side of this, and then I will apply it directly to the metal hilt. I'm going to stretch that around and make sure it's good and snug, and then push each of the stripes down, and then just taking an X-Acto knife, I'm going to trim off where they end, and that the endings of these will also be hidden by the end cap that fits on the end of it. That's a good snug fit, and the cap's going to hide those ends. That's going to work. So now I want to slide this piece on and make sure that that will fit over everything snugly. That's going to work well and helps to give a little bit of a rise to the to that. Now I'll look at this. This is where I'm going to install this little copper piece that sits on the side, and I ended up putting 3 rivets in to hold it in place. 2 would have probably worked fine, but 3 seemed to work out better for me. So I'm going to build a ring holder that will fit in the bottom of the hilt, and then just use a keyring chain to secure that on, so it looks similar to what I've seen in some of the photographs of this too. Once I have that secured down, I just put that ring on there, and that's going to hold nicely. We're getting close to getting this hilt ready to go. Now I'm going to take a piece of 1/4 inch all thread and an acorn nut, trim that off, and I'm going to pre-drill the top of the hilt and screw that down into the PVC. Not all the way down into the polycarbonate, but just that. Then I'm also going to put a decorative screw head on the bottom side of the hilt as well. These are very similar to what I saw in the photographs. That's going to work. Now I'm going to move back to the back of the hilt, because I noticed in the photos it looked like it had a rivet on each of those black strips. So I marked those, I came through and drilled them, and then just used short rivets to go around that. So now I noticed Rey's lightsaber, different than the Skywalker saber, had a black band that wrapped around that part. So using tape as a template tool, I'll carefully peel that tape back off, and then I'm going to put that down on some of the foam rubber, and then from there I'm going to draw out basically the same shape that was in that photo. This rubber's great, and you can pick it up at any craft store, and some of it even comes with an adhesive back. I'm just using the straight foam and using just the spray adhesive. So here I will set it up, spray that on, and then I'm going to apply that to the hilt as well, setting it tight and then bringing it around the body and connecting it. That's going to work out fine, and I did come back later and put rivets in it. Okay, well, we've gotten to the part now where basically the hilt is finished. I added some screws into the side. I'll have to cut the tips off of them, but those will help put pressure on the blade itself once it's in place. But if all you were doing was to build the basic hilt, well, there it is, and you could stop right there. But now we're going to add the blade into it and get it all wired up and make it functional. So we've made this to where this unscrews and the battery can be placed up inside of it. And for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how it's going. So let's see how it turns out. So now, this is the LED lights, the battery, a battery connector. I won't need that. So it comes with your standard red black wire. I'm going to hook it up to the battery real quickly just to test out the lighting and make sure it works. Connect the battery. Yeah, that's going to work just fine. Now I'm going to use the polycarbonate tubing as a measurement for this and roll out my material, fold it over, and roll it back down till it comes to the equal to the other end of that. There are marks throughout this that you can use as your cutting lines, so just make sure you cut between those, you'll be fine. So now, laying this back out, finding my fold point, I'm going to peel off the adhesive backing that comes behind it, but not all at once, and I'm just going to start working my way down the LEDs. I speed it up a little bit here because it takes a little bit of time, but take your time and just apply it to itself, and it sticks really well to itself. So now you can come back, double check yourself, get that all down. That's going to work fine. Now I'm going to use just a piece of white plastic bag, and I'm going to cut about a 1-inch strip. This strip is going to be applied around the LED lighting and help to diffuse the lighting. So using just some cellophane tape, I'm going to wrap it plastic around and then just put a small piece of tape to secure it into place. Now I'm going to do this up and down the LED lights just to hold this into place. Once again, I'll speed this up a little bit to show you how the process goes, but you don't need to sit through the whole long length of this. I cut another small piece because I wasn't quite long enough, so just add that onto it. Now I bought two different colors of the SharkBite tubing, a blue and a white. So I'm going to light up my material and I'm going to check it out to see which one works the best. So I'll just feed in part of it into the tube and the second part of it from the white tube into the blue tube and do a side-by-side comparison. Now looking at this side by side, I can quickly see that the blue shows more hot spots than the white. So I'm going to definitely be going with the white. So now I'm going to take the white piece, just eyeball it out or measure it out, and I'm just going to use a coping saw. This stuff is very soft and easy to cut, and just trim that to the length that I need. Now, the SharkBite comes with a printing on it, and if you just use some lacquer thinner or acetone, you can just easily wipe all of that off. Get rid of the blue for now, and I'm going to feed now my LED lights wrapped in plastic into the SharkBite. Once I have it in there, I'm going to take the cellophane tape again and just help to secure the very end of it around the SharkBite material. This will help keep it from slipping around once it's all in together. Once I have that together, I will slide the SharkBite into the polycarbonate tube, and this is a nice clean fit. That's going to work fine. I'll test it out. Looks like it all lights up. So now we're ready to set the polycarbonate tube into the hilt. I'm going to take those two set screws out and feed the wire in and feed that wire out through the on-off switch hole, and then slide the polycarbonate down until I can see it at the edge of the on-off switch hole. Yep, that's going to work fine. So now I'm going to take those two set screws that I had pre-drilled, and I'm going to cut the sharp tips off of them. It doesn't need to pierce into the polycarbonate. I just want it as pressure points against it to help hold the polycarbonate into place. So I'm going to set these on both sides, and this really does help to secure that blade into place. Okay, that feels pretty good. Now, I've threaded the LED lights out that can go to the switch, and now I'll take the battery cap off the back and grab the battery plate or the battery cap and wires. They're a little short, and I want some extra coming through, so I'm going to splice a couple of wires onto the battery cap onto there, and I'll just solder those quickly into place. You don't have to solder them. You could just twist them tight around there, but I prefer to solder them. Like I say, it will work either way. After I soldered it, I'm also going to use a piece of shrink tape that comes in tubes. You can buy this, and I'll put a link below for these too. And you just slide this over your wire and slide it over the top of the exposed wiring, and then all you have to do is apply a little bit of heat. I'll just use this little torch and just heat that, and it'll shrink right around and protect your wiring. That'll work fine. Now I have enough extra wire that I can push that through and feed it up through the on-off switch hole as well. So now I have all my wiring into place. Once again, I'm going to cut 3 pieces of the shrink tubing, and I'll use that for going on the 3 power lugs that are on the bottom of your on-off switch. I'll squeeze the first one on, get that soldered. So basically you have a 9-volt battery, you have your 3-prong switch, and then the light source. So the 9-volt positive will run to the center lug, the end lug or the switch lug to the positive side. Then from that copper side to the negative, and then also to the light. Once you have all those soldered on and Now I'm going to take another piece of foam and I'm going to use this rolled up to sleeve down into the hilt to help do two things. One, protect the wiring and the battery, but also keep any of the parts from rattling around or making any noise. So once I've rolled it up, almost like a little foam burrito, I can slide the battery down in place and see it's a nice tight fit and protects it from any of the ends of the pop rivets or any of the pieces and keeps it nice and quiet. Well, it looks like we're just about done. The only thing really left is the end of the blade. Now they do sell little round polycarbonate caps, but for me, I didn't order any. I'm going to just use clear hot glue and create an end cap using this. I'll let it settle down in and I'll come back and lay a little more in there and basically build it up until it's level with the end. Make sure everything still works. I'm going to let that cool. This was a fun build. I think it turned out as good as a lot of the ones that I've built in the past. It was a simple one. Was able to end up only using the one piece of 12-inch tubing cut down, and then that sleeve that came off this became the collar on this. It's not exactly to whatever the Skywalker lightsaber is, but it's close and it's got a little bit of artistic interpretation on it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this build. I hope you have some ideas. Put them in the comments section down below. If you want a list of the materials, there are links down below as well in this. And give me a thumbs up if you like it and consider subscribing to the channel. And I'll see you soon.